Om Namah Shivaya. This is
Om Namah Shivaya.
Komela Sutton, and I'm introducing Swami Sitaramananda for our webinar today on living in this world and being out of it as well. So it's a very important subject, and I'm looking forward to it, Swamiji. So I'm going to actually switch off my camera now. So, Swamiji, it's over to you. Can you hear me?
Now
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
I need to see my screen.
Yeah. So your screen is visible to me. So I think you have to.
I don't need slideshow. I do it my hand. Okay. Om?
Yes. Swamiji, it's over to
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
If you could make your
So,
screen just your main screen.
how I make it big? Can you make that name? Okay. Okay? Om?
Not as yet, Swamiji. We are still seeing both your side screen and your main screen.
Oh,
So,
we just need this. We don't need this. Okay?
yeah, now it's okay. So, Om Namah Shivaya. Swami Sitaramananda is the senior acharya of the Sivananda ashrams, and we are has been the student of Swami Vishnu and the direct disciple of Swami Vishnu, who brought the classical yoga to the West. So Swami Sita is a great guru in her own right, and we look forward to hearing her. So Swamiji, over to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So we will start first with the prayer to remove obstacles, invoke the blessings of the teacher, the guru. Om Gajananam Bhutaganadi Savitam Kapita Jambubala Sarabhakshitam Uma Sutam Shoka Vinashakanam Namami Vingeshwara Padam Pamkadam Sadananam Kumkumaraktavanam Mahamatim Divya Mayurapahanam Rudrasya Sunam Surasanyanatam Uham Sadaham Saranam Prepaniyem Ya Kunandu Tushadabalam Ya Supravashtravitam Ya Vina Varanadamantatakaram Ya Sveta Padmasanam Ya Brahma Shuta Shankara Prapitibi Devai Sada Pujita Samampadu Saraswati Bhagavati Nishesha Tatyapaham Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Murtaye Nishpapanchaya Shantaya Shri Sivananda Tenamam Shri Vishnu Devananda Tenamam. Okay, so now I will start and make the prayer a little short. So this is the topic of today is living in the world and out of the world. It's not an easy topic. Actually, it's the essence of yoga life and the yoga teaching.
Swamiji,
So
is it
imagine,
possible for you to make it bigger, the screen? You know, your presentation is very small on the screen. Is it possible to have it on the full screen?
Full screen. No. No. It's not like this. View. Is it okay like this?
Yeah, now it's perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, so the topic is about living in the world and out of the world, and I compare it to the idea of the lotus. The lotus is a beautiful, very fragrant flower, grows out of the mud. So the lotus represents our spiritual life and represents the theme of this webinar, which is how to live in the world of pains and sufferings. It's like the mud, and be free. Out of the world, it means to be free. Means how to live out our karma and be free. So that's the topic. So we have to define our word, because the word live in the world, out of the world, what that means. What is the world in reality? It is said, according to yoga, that the world is a stage where our karma will be played out. So two ways to interpret the world. One is a changing world of objects is a projection of our mind, according to the yogis. So this world of objects is changing all the time, and it's a projection of our mind. It is an appearance, not a solid reality. So the Vedantin call it, it's unreal. And the second way how to see it is the world is a creation of God, or it's a play of God, or His Leela. So both ways of interpreting say that the world is not material or objective, but it is a matter of consciousness. So you see this picture here. This man you can see this side, and you can see the other way. You see? There is no objective world. It's just to show the idea that it depends on what you see. We're not living in the same world. Depending on our karma, we will perceive the world differently. So the world is made of our ideas coming from our mind's projections. So this picture comes from the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? I don't know if you know that movie. It explains quite well the idea. The world is made of our idea coming from our mind's projections. So we have different kinds of projections, different kinds of ideas about people, about space, a physical location somewhere on the planet. So you refer to it as an objective reality, but we don't refer to the same world, the same idea. Different people talk about Vietnam, for example. They don't think about Vietnam the same way. Or sometimes we refer to a society, what society thinks, or what happens in the world, like an event, or we say the world is bad, the world is good, the world is happy, the world is unhappy, this happened, that happened. Yeah, so we call, in general, we call the collective consciousness, or we can call, cultural trend, that oftentimes is, fashioned by our media, our leaders, so this creates the collective mind, and it creates our perceived world. So one way of explanation is that repeated mind projections create an idea that the world is solid and real. Okay, the picture shows the neurons. Modern research found that the neurons that are used frequently develop stronger connection, and those who are rarely or never used eventually die. So it explains more or less the idea that sometimes we think always, we see always the same thing, we think always the same thing, so the world seems to be solid and real. So, but in fact, we keep remembering our past experiences as recorded in our mind, and we keep projecting them out, and the consciousness keeps choosing the same outcome, the same way of seeing. So we replay more or less the same scenario, and the world appears as objective. It's quite astounding explanation or idea. So this projected world, seen as solid and real, outside of ourselves, consists of objects. So when you talk about the world, you see that we talk about our sensual world because, you know, we see our world, we hear our world, smell our world. We live in the world of objects. And then we forget that they are the product of our mind and our consciousness at the first place. So these objects, the people, the things, and our own body are perceived by our senses, and thus we live, you can say, you can use the word that we live in a sensual world. The essential quality of our world that we live in, if we don't question it, is a sensual world. So we need to extend our idea a little bit that the objects in the world can be our own body and mind that we call ourselves. Our body and mind change. They are the objects of our perception, and they are not the subject. The subject is our own consciousness, our own self. We are not the body in reality. So this is an amazing photo that I found, a picture that, you know, all the different things that is in our mind. If we pull it outside, we look, then it becomes objective. But in fact, it is, you know, in our mind. So objects can be people or things. Okay? So again, the concept of objects, names and forms. And we are attached to it. So our attachment can be to people, for example, emotional attachment, family, friends, or to things like our home, our environment, our work environment, our familiar landscape, our objects in our possessions. So, but we need to remember that we are not the mind, nor the emotions. Now, objects, that means something that appear in the world as external to ourselves, that we perceive to be external, can be the phenomena of nature. Nature is made of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These gross elements exist in their subtle form in the mind. So nature is in reality external to ourselves, but it is close to our heart, so it feels that we can be one with it. So we can easily commune with nature and find our oneness with nature. We have a symbiotic relationship with her. This is our spiritual relationship with God, with the Divine Mother. We feel more at home in the world of nature than the world of our mind. So this comes to the second idea that we talk about, that we can interpret the world as God, creation. So when we see nature, then we can, we shift. You know, we cannot say that it is a projection of our mind, but we say it is projection of God's mind. It is God. So tuning to nature is a positive way to live in the world. That's why, you know, the yogis promote to live in nature. It is easier to find ourselves in the world of nature, out of the busyness of cities, where chaotic and confused human thoughts are bouncing upon each other. So that's why it's good to go sometimes to retreats, ashrams, to clear our mind out, or go to nature, so we can balance ourselves back and have perspective. Now think a bit more about nature. Why we can accept nature even though, you know, she might be sometimes very difficult, but somehow we surrender to her. We accept. Nature is the closest that we can feel God or Goddess. She's constantly changing and surprises us with her different names and forms of cosmic happenings, like for example the weather. However, we surrender to her more easily and accept her power. She is a teacher of our ego. Sometimes, you know, nature can be difficult, like storms, floods, snow, storms, weather, extreme weather conditions. and yet, we somehow we are not rejecting. We bear with it, we adapt to it, we suffer, but sometimes, we don't complain, and we just accept. Because of the idea that nature is divine, is God's mind projection. This is a beautiful picture of Lord Vishnu. He's the protector of the universe. So tuning to nature makes us humble. Okay? So when you do this, when you live and you think of nature, it keeps you somehow humble, I mean not too egoistic, and it opens the heart. So I said nature helps us to surrender the ego, calm our mind. For example, a disturbed mind gains much by working in the garden, walking in the sun, or swimming in the river. Okay, now go back to the idea of the world is objects. The world is made of objects. But we need to remember that objects are many, but the self is one. That means even though we see objects, we see the different shape and form, yeah, we try to see God in the world of multiplicity of nature, or we can remember the one consciousness in all people, things, and phenomena of nature. So that's an exercise that we need to train our mind to be able to see, not get lost in the differences, but to be able to see God, or to see one consciousness, the unity consciousness in all names and forms. So these are keys to find peace at all times. So to remember one consciousness, we need to remember that the sensual world is not real. That means, what it means it's not real? It's not real means it's not the end of it. Yeah, it's not, the picture. So yogis, to find this out, they learn to turn inwards. I mean, transcend the sensual world. They close their eyes and turn inward in order to perceive the self beyond the projections of the mind and the senses. To make sense out of this world that is sometimes overwhelming, we need to learn to meditate and to turn inward and to be in connection with ourselves. Then, at that time when we come out in the world of the mind and senses, we keep our balance. So again, keep thinking about, the world of change, the world of objects, of names and forms are constantly changing. Objects are changing, but consciousness remains the same. So that's the idea that we need to really nail in our mind. So even our body, we think that our body is very solid, but our body is constantly changing. The cells are constantly dying, body is changing every moment. Body changes, ages, dies, but consciousness remains untouched even after death, according to the yogis. So the idea of the external world creates duality and separation. So if we keep maintaining that there is a world out there, and because we live that kind of feeling of split and feeling of being separated, because we identify with a solid body, a solid mind that we think is an entity that is separate and is solid, at that time there's an external world and we are being separated from it and we feel lonely. So unless we develop equal vision and see that it is all one and it is all God, so that's the yoga training that help us to get to that. So we need to rethink our concept of the world to be free from separation. Okay, so we need to practice yoga in order to solve our problem of always being in a dual kind of world. Always something is missing. Never we experience the oneness or the perfection. Always something that makes us very restless. So this is why yogis turn inwards in the beginning of the journey. They're not being egoistic, but they need to start from their own consciousness. That's why People sometimes resort to go to retreat, to go to ashram, to go to intensive training, so that they can really get to the bottom of who they are, yeah, so that they can have the connection with their own inner self, their own consciousness, so they can make sense of their world. So our lesson is to detach from objects and to realize our inner truth or Atman. You see the picture of Swami Sivananda? He has one eye closed and one eye open. So Master Sivananda sees the world with one eye, and he contemplates the self with the other eye. So you can say, live in the world and out of the world. Live in the sensual world of objects of this life, this life that seems to be objective life that we are living in, yeah, and at the same time see the truth of it, which is our Atman, our self. The Atman is a self present in all. It is unchanging. So on the the background of the changing world is the unchanging consciousness or Atman. It is stable, it never changes, and it's eternal. It never go through the process of change through time. It's perfect and free. It doesn't need to be corrected in some way. It's all-pervading. It's everywhere, and all-knowing, and all bliss. So this is the description that the yogis, the Vedantins gave to the inner truth or to the Atman. That Atman or the self is the subject, and oftentimes it is compared to the sun. The sun is perfect in itself. It doesn't need anything. It's independent. It's not like the moon. The moon is our mind. It's changing. It is waxing and waning. So realize yourself at all times as the consciousness underlying all things. Yeah, it is the eternal witness. The self is the eternal witness. There's something's always there and never change. The subject is beyond the senses, beyond duality, and it is Satchidananda, existence, knowledge and bliss, absolute. And so this is a Vedanta teaching. So now one thing that you can think a bit more, the self, is found in the here and now. In the here and now, we can access our consciousness, free from the imprints of the past, that means the projection of the mind, or the result of this projection that becomes the future. As a result of our karma, identify with body and mind would never live in the here and now, all the time. What's next? What's next? That's why we become restless. And then we perpetuate this idea of ourselves, going and live in that world that we project in our mind and try to change it. So yoga and meditation teaching give you some hints to help you to bring you to the present. The first thing is try to be content, control the desire, the restlessness. Try to be grateful. Okay? So that also go to the root of our desires. To forgive, to let go of the past story of our life. Stop performing actions that confirm your separateness. Okay? So do spiritual learning, self-study, do spiritual learning, and overall meditate. During meditation, you can have this access to our called the superconscious state, to this to that reality that is beyond our mind. Okay, it's a lot. The play on the stage of the world is our karma. Okay, so why the world appears the way how it is, what's happening in that world, why we perceive the world as it is, what are our reactions to this perceived world is our karma. So Swami Shivananda says that the world is your best teacher. So what that means? It's not the world means people in the ashram think the world means running out the ashram. It's not like that. Yeah, the world is is general terms to indicate, our life. Yeah, in this setup of our life. So, is your best teacher. That means our life, the material that come out of our life itself, is teaching. There's lesson in everything. So if we learn out of the experience of our life, try to contemplate and think and be aware of our lessons in every lessons instead of rejecting, blaming, become, overwhelmed and blame, or feel so bad about ourselves that we're not performing. So it's good to be adopting this position to be a student of life. There's a lesson in everything. So endeavor to have right thinking. So we need to purify our thoughts and emotions so that we can be free from this repeated lesson. We call our karma. So yoga teaches you this, how to purify thoughts and emotions. Recognize our present life as a result of karma. Okay? So you cannot escape the result of past wrong thoughts. Karma manifests as a feeling of suffering, alienation, or lack of freedom. So when we feel this thing in us, and we know it is some karmic situation. Karmic life is full of likes and dislikes. So in this life that is the result of wrong thinking, then our mind is acting up and it's full of likes and dislikes. The world is made of likes and dislikes. That's the way how our mind works. It swings between likes and dislikes, the pairs of opposites, the duality. So out of ignorance, we think that objects are likable or intrinsically dislikable. That's what we think. Yeah? And then we develop other feelings like fears of not getting what we desire, or fears of losing what we enjoy. All this aggravates our attachment to the unreal. So freedom from karma doesn't mean running away. So we need to live this world, we need to live this life, we need to take responsibility of our life, we need to do our duty, and then we need to be patient, and eventually we realize in due time our illusions. The world and ourselves evolve slowly as we become more aware of the truth. This is true freedom. So living in the world and out of the world is being able to see divinity, our own Atman, or the truth of life, our pure consciousness in all situations and in all things. So now, what are the tools? The tools come from the four classical paths of yoga. Swami Sitaramananda, synthesize it in a few words: serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. So karma yoga, transform all karma to selfless service. Bhakti yoga, love God in all, acceptance and self-surrender to everything as God's will. Devotional practice. Raja yoga or hatha yoga, control the sense of separateness of body and mind through meditation. And jnana yoga is to find the self through self-inquiry of who am I. Practice discrimination, dispassion. So it's a lot. Okay, but slowly from practicing, what we feel the most appeal to, we would eventually, develop, overall practice. Swami Sivananda called it synthesis of yoga. That means how to spiritualize our life, whatever we think, whatever we feel, whatever we do. So now I'm going to go a little bit more, if you can follow me, into we call jnana yoga, means into the way how we think. So in jnana yoga, Vedanta, we say to develop discrimination. What is it? It means learn how to think properly about ourselves and our reality. Learn to distinguish between what is real and not real, what is self and not self. Learn to ask questions. Now, don't just take everything that you see as granted. See things more as they are, and try not to see things through our emotional veils, our likes and dislikes. So learn to be able to step back so we can see that. Wrong thinking leads you into the world. Okay, so this is kind of nice saying. Wrong thinking leads you into the world. That means the world become more real. But right thinking leads you out of the world. That means the world will become, you have more detached view of the world. So discrimination requires that you exercise your conscious choosing of the truth, irrespective of the appearances. For example, Swami Vishnudevananda chose to risk his life crossing over conflict zones of flowers and love in order to promote the unity and brotherhood of mankind beyond boundaries. Okay? So he chose the oneness and he reject the boundaries. Okay? So detachment. So come with the discrimination comes the detachment. So this is the key, the theme. Living in the world and out of the world is a life of detachment. So now we need to think properly about this concept. You can only detach truly if you know that this world is illusory and only serves the purpose to help us work out our karma. Okay, so this is all the ideas that we've been talking up till now. To say that this world is only a projection, is only an appearance, is illusory, is changing. So we have to have that kind of solid understanding of that. Then we can detach. Now the world is there only to serve the purpose of helping us learning or working out our karma. So it's temporary setup so you can learn. We cannot help it, but go through this life. We have to live this life, whatever the setup. Yet, we do not have to lose ourselves in it or identify ourselves completely with it. Okay? So we can act, play our role, do our duty, but at the same time, save some time so that you can contemplate and you can be with yourself. So detachment is asserting the truth. So sometimes, the swan is representing that. It's like the lotus. The swan, you can put some water on the back of the swan and the water will just roll off. The same like the lotus. So detachment is asserting the truth. You see, that's an interesting view because we think detachment means I'm going to lose something. But detachment means just choose the truth, assert the truth of who you are. Asserting the self in the face of changing, illusory world. Okay? Asserting what is true about the self helps one to get out of the projected world. So we need to keep confirming that I am that consciousness. I am that pure self. I am that happiness, bliss, without taint, without condition. So if we keep asserting this, then it helps us to get out of our projected world coming from our mind. So detachment is not losing. It means living in the self that is pure love and fearless. So we'll get back to this practice of yoga that will help us to detach. Karma yoga, we detach from the results of our action. Bhakti yoga, we detach from our emotions. Raja yoga, we detach from the thoughts and from the energy, the prana. How do you do this in Raja yoga? Through concentration on a worthy and uplifting objects, or the name of God, or the mantra. Okay? So we in order for us to concentrate and to meditate, we have to detach from other thoughts, otherwise we cannot do it. So in Jnana Yoga, Vedanta, the detachment is detachment from the false idea of self. Detachment from the instrument instead of identifying with the instrument, which is our body and mind. Be a karma yogi in this world. So we live in the world, but how do you live in the world? Be a karma yogi. You live to serve this world, to serve God that you see in this world. Cultivate non-doership, or the attitude of being of service. Reduce the thinking that your personality, your skills, your energy, and the circumstances of your life are real. Okay? Thus freeing you from repeating karma. When we detach, when you are karma yogi, selfless actions are the first steps leading you to self-realization. So, example, Gandhiji, he's working in this world. He was a lawyer. He has a very good thinking as a political leader, and yet he's practicing his spirituality and detaching. So in yoga or Raja Yoga, there are some guidelines to help us to reduce the distortions of the mind that make us more worldly. So like Gandhi, practice non-violence and respect, practice truthfulness and honesty, avoid telling lies and being manipulative, control over the sexual and sensual propensities. Don't let the sexual and the sensual completely overwhelming our mind and hide us from realizing our self. And non-stealing, and control somehow our desire. Non-accumulation of objects, also that's part of live a simple life so that we can see ourselves better. And the 5 must do while living in the world: purification, austerity, contentment, study of scripture, keep positive company, self-surrender, accepting that we do not know it all and control it all. So you can go back and visit the 2 steps in Raja Yoga. It's called the yamas and the niyamas. Try to avoid and the must do. The observances, the practices, things that you need to bring into your life. So yoga and meditation keep the mind strong and calm. Okay? So learn to listen to inner voice. So when you do the practice of even the asanas, you can sometimes be in connection and hear yourself. Get the direct experience of the peace of the soul in meditation. Pranayama, practice pranayama. Pranayama helps to balance the mind because the direct relationship between the prana, the energy of life, the divine energy, and our thinking. So see clearly while in the world when you do pranayama. It helps you to see and to bear yourself, correctly. Slow down the impulsiveness and the reactive tendencies, and it helps to purify the thoughts. Meditation develops the seeing with the 3rd eye, the eye of intuition. So go beyond preconceived idea. Not seeing centrally or habitually, so that's called developing the intuition or seeing the oneness. Seeing unity in diversity, reconciling the separation, the inside, the outside, the here and there, this and that, me and God, you and me, good and bad. So try to live that, the unity, see the unity instead of the extremes that are different. Remaining centered, dwelling on the self, the picture of Lord Shiva, half eye open with the 3rd eye open. So that's the ideal, living in the world, out of the world. Yeah, he live in a mountain top on the Kailash mountain. He sit over the tiger skin that represent the lower nature, the lower mind, and you know, our instinctive nature. And he's untouched. You know, he's a symbol of the detached personality, untouched by anything. Not seeing the likes and the dislikes. Yeah, not seeing what the ego wants. Seeing with the heart, the soul, being the witness, asserting the self. Nothing can touch me, affect me. I'm fine. I'm perfect. I have always been fine. Even when I thought I was not fine, I was fine. So that's the way how you can simply formulate the idea, yeah, and do self-assertion or self-affirmation. Okay, so we talk a lot about this, the practice of detachment, the practice of not getting involved in the unreal. But there is an easier practice that gets us there, is the practice of bhakti yoga, or the practice of devotion. So when you see the world as a creation of God, at that time you can practice bhakti yoga. It restores pure love. Okay? So we always have this scarring emotions or the hurt of the past, experience of the past, that we keep projecting, that create the different karma, different world that we have to go back in and live in. But we need to practice pure love to get out of that. Yeah, and that is the practice of devotion. It opens the heart. So emotional identification creates attachment to objects. Okay, so when we don't have devotion, that means that pure heart, love, then we function out of our emotions, and then we lose ourselves in it. That's called emotional identification. And then it creates our attachment to objects. So we get somehow entangled in this emotional identification, and we become attached, and it perpetuates the karma and maintain us in the world of objects. That means in the world of frustrations, basically, interacting with objects. Devotion to the divine makes you see beyond the objects to see God. Devotion restores your faith, makes you humble, capable of letting go of your own ego. Your heart becomes pure, allowing you to have compassion for others. See, when the heart is not pure, when it have all these likes and dislikes in the mind, we cannot have compassion for others. We cannot feel for others. And we also judge ourselves difficultly. So we need to have compassion for others, compassion for ourselves. Thus, we break down the separateness, which is the root cause of our suffering. So practice devotion allows you to see the world as a creation of God. So this photo was taken when I was in pilgrimage in the Himalaya. So when you're on pilgrimage, that's the practice you do, is to see everything that's happening. You know, you travel different place, everything happen, you know, this happened, that happened, you know, with the weather, with the people you meet, with the people you travel with. But when you have that contemplative mode in a pilgrimage trip, then you just see everything as God, and you keep yourself, you know, with the heart open, keep yourself open. Seeing God in the world is living in the world and out of the world. So that's what it is. Live in the world and out of the world when you see God in the world. So it takes some training. Depending on how you see yourself and your reality, choose your practice. So that's the end of our presentation. That means, you know, you have to understand clearly what the world is. Yeah, you can say, you know, these two ideas of the world, but in fact it's intertwined. You know, sometimes you reject something, You realize something out of our mind, and sometimes we embrace the world. So you can practice this different path of yoga. Either you understand the world is our mind's projections, it's an appearance, then practice control of mind and practice self-inquiry. Or if you see the world as the creation of God, then practice seeing God in all, and at that time also serve all. Hare Om Tat Sat. We contemplate the lotus again, be in the world, out of the world. And that's the end of our topic. Hare Om Tat Sat. We say the prayer to end. May the whole world be enlightened. It's a peace prayer. Asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityumam amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnan Purnaidasyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we hope to see you again. We hope that this presentation has given you some insight and inspiration. If you want more teaching, please, I'll be ready to serve you anytime. Please come visit the ashram, yoga farm we talk about, but also we teach at different other locations in the world. You can check our website out, and here is some of the upcoming programs. And please spend some time at the ashram, Sivananda ashram, any ashram, and experience being in the world and out of the world. Okay, because ashram life is like that. You do the practice, so you are out of the world, you're in connection with yourself, but you are also living with other people, interacting. So you learn something. So there is a Vedanta and Silence course that I will be teaching for 10 days. We go in depth into this topic of Vedanta and self. And then there's a Thanksgiving retreat, which is, is the opposite, which means how to live in the world and do our action of spiritual activism. And then there is the Yoga Teachers Training course upcoming in December. Holiday New Year's program on spiritual joy. So please consult our website. And also I'll be teaching in Asia. I'll be teaching in Vietnam, TTC, and also other TTC in China and Japan. So please consult our international website for the different courses for 2015. And I also promote this Ayurveda and Yoga Wellness Counselor certification in Vietnam with Doga Lila and myself for 10 days. So how to live healthily, and not be so stressed out. And back to you, Komila. So you can announce the program, the next webinar.
Okay, so Swami Sita, I first want to thank you so much for always bring inspiration. You bring your inspiration to our home, and we are able to listen to you and also bring our thinking back to order. There's always a lot of truth in what you say, and you bring us that purification energy. Just listening to you, I feel that. So the next free webinar with Swami Sitaramananda is Saturday, January 3rd, 9 a.m. and it is about New Year resolves. And
9 a.m. Pacific time.
Pacific time, yes, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And all these programs are being recorded, so you can inquire about the recording. And also, if you want to donate anything, Ashram is a non-profit charitable organization, and all the teachers are volunteers. They've dedicated their life so that they can bring peace and calmness into your life for people like you. So if you are able to do that, then that would be very nice. And Swamiji, we have people from all over, and Adinata has said that a lot of material presented here. I know there was a lot of practical application. Can recording be made available again? Yes. As I said,
Yes.
all the recordings are available, and you can contact Swami Sita's office or anything, and they are available for you. I think is it online as well on the
Not yet.
not yet, but they will be. But if you email, then you can get them. We record everything. So that will be a great good resource as well, Swamiji, once we get it online, so that people are able to download these programs as well. So Om Namah Shivaya, Swamiji, thank you for your valuable time and your inspiration. I find it so useful myself. So I'm talking from all the people who are hearing today as well. So Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you, Komila. Thank you.
It's good morning from Swamiji and good night from me. Thank you. That's the beauty of the webinar. I am connecting from India, and Swamiji is in USA, and many people all over the world in this webinar. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.